Leadership Development in Difficult Times. Hi, good to have you back on our program. This is number 4 in the series on leadership, personality versus character. A way we can help you when your churches are shut down, when you're not able to meet together as a leadership group. You can actually use this material with your leaders. It's a very effective way of continuing your leadership development. What this fourth session is looking at is finding our place amongst our peers. We look at both good and bad examples, because of course Saul was a bad example. Out of the 40 years as king, he was only a good king for 2. That's not a really good example. But Samuel was always the good example. So we're finding our place. Are you good or bad? Are you mediocre? What sort of a peer friend are you to others? It's a challenge and something we have to handle as leaders. When I come in contact with great material by noted speakers, I always try to recognize that. Too many preachers use stuff and they don't honorably recognize. I listened to a tape many years ago by R.T. Kendall. He was the senior pastor of Westminster Chapel in England. He talked about in 1 Samuel 16:1, it's the only text where both Saul, Samuel and David are all referred to in the one verse. And that's what we're looking at here, is the peers, our leadership amongst our peers. It's a vital area that we have good peer support around us. So we see in the 3 identities that we're looking at, Saul and Samuel and David, different characteristics, different peer qualities. Saul was good to start with, but then he became self-absorbed, self-interest, and that is not good. And so he represents bad qualities in peer association. Samuel was good qualities, and he had a marvelous impact both in Saul, which of course refused ultimately to receive his admonition and advice, but particularly in David's life. And then David himself. Now, even though David was a peer to Saul in his early life, the key phrase in David's life was he behaved himself wisely. So even as a peer to Saul, he was a good influence, and always, of course, his relationship with Samuel was very, very good. So what sort of a characteristic, peer association, attitude are we showing in our leadership style? The brief of number 4 is finding your place amongst your peers. It talks about yesterday, today and tomorrow's man. Listen to it. David was unique in his generation, but there were many other leaders around him of note. 1 Samuel 16:1 alone refers to Saul, Samuel and David all in the one verse. Saul became yesterday's man, Samuel remained relevant as today's man, and David was destined to be tomorrow's man. This chapter looks at our relevance and leadership amongst our peers. So in the 4th session we deal with Saul, which has 22 different leadership studies. We deal with Samuel, today's man, which has 21 studies, and we deal with David, who was tomorrow's man, and here we have 25 studies. Now, because there's so many, the actual worksheets on these are shorter, but they give you information, they give you text, and they give you things to think about and to work through as a group. And of course, what we're saying is leaders can share with each other on the phone or email or whatever else, Skype each other, and actually your leadership group can be physically meeting by distance and fulfilling the requirements of the separation that are upon the church at this moment. It's vital that we have good peers around us, people who influence us, mentors, people speaking to our life, just comrades and fellow ministers that we can bounce stuff off and learn from one another. Good peers are so important, but we have to sort out the sort of people who will add to their life, not drain us or take from our life without any reciprocal building up between the two of you. Finally, as we conclude, you'll find the reference of where you can get the actual promotional package, which has your electronic file to the introduction. It'll give you everything, including the full index, so you can see what the program is. We'll send also 3 samples. You'll see the email address coming up on the screen. Promote it with your friends, refer it on to other ministers on your contact list. Let other people know about leadership, personality versus character.